In today's webinar, I will share information about the following topics: pre-arrival preparation, essential travel documents, proof of funds, goods accompanying and goods to follow, restricted goods, and what to expect upon arrival. Now, let's get started by talking about pre-departure preparation. You and your family can get free in-person and online services to help prepare for life in Canada. We call these pre-arrival services. Pre-arrival services can help you in a variety of ways, including preparing for your move to Canada, helping you get education, work experience, and other credentials recognized in Canada, help connect you with employers to find a job, and help connect you with other free services after you arrive in Canada. Please remember that you can access all the services that we fund for free. You can also get free in-person and online services if you are approved for your permanent resident application, you are currently outside of Canada, or you have one of the following documents: a letter stating that you can get pre-arrival services, a confirmation of permanent residence letter, a passport request letter that indicates permanent resident visa issuance, a letter asking for your medical exam results, a single entry permanent resident visa, or a letter letting you know that you can pick up your permanent resident visa. Planning for Canada is just one of the government pre-funded pre-arrival services funded by the Government of Canada for newcomers. If you have not already registered with Planning for Canada, we highly recommend you do so. In the next few slides, I will show you which essential documents you will need. Make sure you carry proper identification for yourself and any children or minors traveling with you. You must be able to confirm your legal right or authorization to enter into Canada when you arrive at the border. Prepare your documents with care. There are documents you must have to cross the border into Canada. Without these documents, you will not be allowed into the country. You may also need other documents that are listed below. Get all the important documents that you have translated into either English or French before you arrive in order to make it easier for the people in Canada to understand them. Some of the essential documents that you will need in order to enter Canada include a Canadian immigrant visa, if this applies, your confirmation of permanent residence for each family member traveling with you, a valid passport or other travel documents for each family member traveling with you. You should also have 2 copies of the following: a detailed list of all the personal or household items that you are bringing with you, and a list of items that will be arriving later, as well as their money value. Remember not to put these documents in your check-in luggage. You will want to keep these documents with you at all times while you travel, as you will need access to them upon arrival. Some of these items may need to be taken out of your luggage at the airport, so put them somewhere that they can be accessed quickly while you are packing to come to Canada. The items that you should have with you include your passport, visa, work permit or other immigration documentation, bank balance letter, Evidence of travel insurance, if this is applicable to you. It would be helpful to have a printed copy of your policy as well. The address of a place where you will stay upon arrival in Canada, for example, a hostel or a friend's home or a family member's home. Your driver's license or some other form of government-issued ID if you plan on going out to venues that serve alcohol. This would also avoid you having to potentially use or lose your passport as a valid form of photo identification. Your resume. This would be helpful to email to yourself and bring an electronic copy or a print copy so that you have that on record and on file with your documentation. You should also bring any prescription medication that you require if necessary. Now, let's go over what to pack in your check-in luggage and your carry-on luggage. Here is some advice for what to pack for landing in Canada. Pack clothing for all weather conditions, whether it is hot, cold, rainy, or snowing. Learn about how to transport other belongings such as your pets, vehicles, or other large items. Goods accompanying and goods to follow. The items listed on this slide are what you may want to consider putting into your carry-on luggage. A passport, electronic travel authorization, your wallet with your driver's license, debit or credit cards, and some Canadian dollars, any medicine you may need, and please note that you are allowed to bring a 3-month supply of any prescription medication you are taking, and a 3 months usage of over-the-counter medication into Canada. Sanitation wipes to clean any surfaces in the airplane, hand sanitizer, and a non-medical face mask if you would like to. These items can also be kept on your personal item as well. Your personal item is something that you can take onto the plane with you along with your carry-on luggage. Immigrating to a new country is an exciting and challenging journey. It is critical to make good preparation, and in particular, to get ready financially. Do some research on the cost of living in the landing destination that you are considering. Cost of living varies depending on where you decide to settle. In some cases, half of your take-home pay could be allocated to household expenses, including your home, heating and other utilities, food, clothing, health insurance, or transportation. Find out how much it costs to live where you are planning to settle in Canada by visiting www.numbeo.com/cost of living. Your life in Canada will be different than your home country. Even if you earn a higher salary in Canada than what you were earning in your home country, the cost of living in Canada may be higher than what you are used to. For the purpose of this webinar, we will refer to the housing expenses. Most Canadians spend approximately 35 to 50% of their income on housing and utilities. Many newcomers choose to rent an apartment on a monthly basis. The cost of living will vary depending on where you decide to settle. Some costs will be similar for items and services across Canada. You will likely pay at least $500 a month to rent a room. You can pay approximately $2,000 to $3,000 a month to rent a larger apartment or a house. Basic expenses. Food will be a basic expense. The cost of food will depend on the size of your family. This cost can double if you often eat in restaurants or choose to buy specialty items. Clothing expenses may be less than 10% of your take-home pay. You may spend a lot more if you buy your clothing at designer stores. Secondhand shops sell used clothing and furniture at very low cost. Also, be ready for occasional expenses. Living in Canada, you will find that you may end up having occasional expenses that you may not have budgeted for. It's always good to have a little bit of money saved for additional expenses that you may not expect. An example of this could be buying prescription medication that is not covered by the health insurance provided in the place where you land. As a new immigrant landing in Canada for the first time, you are allowed to bring your personal belongings to Canada without having to pay any duties or taxes. You should prepare a list of goods accompanying, which are the personal items in your luggage. Check-in and carry-on. If you plan to send more personal items to Canada later, after the first landing, you should also prepare the list of goods to follow. The form you are using for the lists is called Settlers Effect Form, or BSF 186 form. I will explain further in the next slides. Settlers Effect Form, BSF 186, can be downloaded from the Canada Border Services Agency website at www.cbsa-asfc.gc.ca, and you search for BSF 186 on the website. Canada Border Service Agency recommends, whether the form is electronic or handwritten, have them stamped while landing. Goods accompanying using BSF 186, goods to follow using BSF 186. If you need additional pages for any of those forms, the Canadian Border Service Agency recommends using the BSF 186A form for any additional pages needed for the original form. Group items into categories such as books, clothing, shoes. The value is the current value of the items to the best of your knowledge. Valuables are listed individually with more details including electronics and jewelry. Here is a sample of the form and how to fill it out. As seen on the form displayed, items are grouped and listed together with the value of the items listed to the right side of the form. For example, clothes, shoes, towels, and belts have been grouped together as the first item on the list. To the right of this is this category of items is the Canadian dollar value of this grouping, which is approximately $4,000. It's best to group similar items together when you are completing this form. In the next few slides, I will discuss the duty and tax about the personal items you are bringing in your luggage. To import goods duty and tax-free, those entering Canada with the intention of staying for the first time of residence of 1 year or more must have owned, possessed, and used the goods abroad prior to arriving in Canada. You can include the following personal and household effects in your duty and tax-free entitlement: clothing and linen, furniture, furnishings, appliances, silverware, jewelry, and antiques, family heirlooms, private collections of coins and stamps and art, personal computers, books, musical instruments, hobby tools and other hobby items, personal vehicles, and any appliances such as a stove or refrigerator. Also, any goods worth $60 Canadian or less each. You should not travel with a lot of jewelry if possible. Your jewelry is duty-free. There is no limit about how much and how many pieces of jewelry you can bring. You should carry the following documents for your jewelry, particularly expensive pieces of jewelry. If possible, have the original receipt, get an appraisal, certification statements, and photos. What are restricted goods? We will discuss that in the next few slides. Some items are prohibited or regulated because they can carry foreign animal and plant pests and disease. You must declare all food, plants, animal, and related products that you import into Canada. Failure to do so can result in your goods being seized, or you may be subject to a fine or trial. We have prepared a list of the items of links where you can find the guidelines that relate to importing certain goods into Canada, as some items are restricted or prohibited. Here are some examples: food, plants, animals, and related products, health products and prescription drugs, vehicles, goods contaminated with soil, firewood, prohibited consumer products, cultural property, firearm and weapons, explosives, fireworks and ammunition, obscene material, used or secondhand mattresses, other prohibited goods, goods subject to import controls. And to review all of the restricted items, please visit the Canada Border Security Agency website at www.cbsa-asfc.gc.ca. Obscene material, hate propaganda, and child pornography cannot be imported into Canada. The Canada Consumer Product Safety Act, if a person is prohibited from manufacturing, importing into Canada, advertising, or selling a consumer product listed in the Schedule 2 of the Act. A partial list includes baby walkers, infant self-feeding devices, chickweed beans and items containing them, lawn darts with extended tips, and child pornography. Certain antiquities or cultural objects considered to have historical significance to their country of origin cannot be brought into Canada without the appropriate export permits. Avoiding important delays. Cultural property imported into Canada may be detained by the Canada Border Service Agency if it does not have proper paperwork. To prevent import delays, ensure that cultural property has been legally exported from the foreign state, and ensure that it has all the necessary documents such as the export permits. Firearms and weapons. You must declare all weapons and firearms at the CBSA port of entry when you enter Canada. If not, the goods may be seized and you will face trial. Please visit the CBSA asfc.gc.ca website to view more details and information about importing firearms into Canada, including licensing, registration, and permit requirements. Consult, import, and export a firearm or weapon into Canada. You can bring money into Canada in different forms. When you arrive, you must tell a border official if you are carrying more than $10,000 Canadian per family if traveling as a family. Proof of funds and declaration of funds. Whether you should prepare the proof of funds for landing depends on your immigration category. As a federal skilled worker, yes, you need to bring the proof of funds. We recommend you bring cash or cash form like money order, bank draft, or traveler's checks in combination of a Forex card or international credit card and bank statements. As a provincial nominee, you should bring the employment letter. No need for the proof of funds. As a family, class, or sponsored immigrant, spouse, children, parents, or grandparents, you do not need to show the proof of funds as your sponsors are supposed to support you financially. All air travelers should declare cash if it is $10,000 Canadian or more in their declaration card at the airport or the port of entry. No taxes are charged toward the funds that you bring. If you need to bring more funds to Canada or vice versa, we recommend you use a wire transfer. A wire transfer is between financial institutions, and it makes it easier, safer, and faster to receive more funds. Also, no taxes will be charged toward all your properties and assets, including savings, stocks, properties, and other assets you own before you become a permanent resident of Canada and also a tax resident of Canada. Now, let's talk about what will happen once you arrive at your port of entry, which is the airport where you will land when you come to Canada. The Canada Border Service Officer will check that your documents have not expired. You cannot use expired documents. You must bring a valid passport with you and 2 copies of a detailed list of your belongings that you would have brought with you, including their value in Canadian funds. You will also need to submit the BSF 186 forms and have them stamped so that you will not be charged any duties in the future when you ship them to Canada. When you arrive in Canada, you will have to go through 2 screening interviews. If all of your documents are available and in order, this should be over quickly. First interview. This is the official documents. For your first interview, an officer from the Canadian Service Border Agency will first greet you. They will ask to see your visa and other travel documents. They will check to make sure that you and your family members traveling with you have the proper travel documents with you. They will ask about your health, and they will ask you questions similar to those on the immigration application form, including, are you traveling with your family? Have you been convicted of a serious crime in your home country? How long do you plan to stay in Canada? How much money do you have with you? Are you healthy? Have you been to Canada before? Were you required to leave Canada at any time? After your first interview, you will meet another CBSA officer. This officer will check the items that you are bringing into Canada. At some points of entry, you may have the same officer twice. During the second interview, they will ask about your personal goods. The second interview is for you to declare what you are bringing with you into Canada. The officer will ask to see your declaration card. You must tell the officer that you have arrived in Canada to immigrate. At this point, the officer may direct you to another area for the customs procedure. You must give the officer the list of goods you are bringing with you and the list of goods that will be arriving later. The officer will go through both lists with you and may ask questions about some of the goods. The officer may also inspect your luggage. Be prepared to answer the following questions. What are you bringing with you to Canada? Do you have any live animals or plants with you? Do you have any firearms, ammunition, or fireworks with you? Do you have any meat or dairy products with you? Do you have any fresh fruits or vegetables with you? Do you have any items that are from the endangered species? Do not give false answers. Your answers to the questions must be true. It is a serious crime to make a false statement. You make a false statement and you may not be allowed to stay in Canada. If you're well prepared and you have no items that are not allowed in Canada, this process will go quickly. If there are no issues, the officer will sign your confirmation of permanent residence and authorize you entry into Canada as a permanent resident. And and this concludes our webinar. I hope this will help prepare you for your landing in Canada. We encourage you to register for the Planning for Canada website to access more pre-arrival support if you have not done so already.